This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch for Thursday, May 21st. I'm George Thomas. Global cases of the coronavirus have surpassed 5 million and almost 330,000 have died. This nearly 5 months after the first infection was reported in Wuhan, China. Now, many states here in the U.S. are rolling out so-called contact tracing for COVID-19. It uses an app on your cell phone to try to stop the spread of the virus. But will it violate your rights? Dale Hurd has the story.
Health experts have long used contact tracing to stop epidemics like Ebola, and they're trying to use it to stop COVID-19. But getting already suspicious Americans to cooperate so that it works effectively will be tough. The CDC even gives contact tracing the creepy term of public health surveillance. Using either Bluetooth or location services on your phone, contact tracing apps record who we've been in contact with in case people nearby have COVID-19. Nations like Singapore are already using it.
Get peace of mind for you and your family through community-driven contact tracing.
Now, House Bill 6666. The COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone or TRACE Act would give $100 billion to local organizations to help with testing and contact tracing by funding door-to-door outreach. Contrary to what some believe, it does not allow anyone to enter your home or allow the government to remove anyone from your home because of coronavirus. But could the government legally force us to take an app on our phones? Professor Brad Jacobs, a constitutional expert at Regent University, says no.
We do have protections against searches and seizures by the government. The Supreme Court just a couple years ago ruled that the government can't use pings off of cell towers to tell them where someone is without getting a warrant first.
But could the government restrict your freedom if you don't use a contact tracing app? Maybe.
Supreme Court has long held that no rights are absolute. The government can override a constitutional right, at least for a short period, if it can show what we call a compelling state interest.
Michael Doherty, the CEO of LabMD, a medical testing lab who's been fighting federal overreach in his industry for years, is the author of The Devil Inside the Beltway, and he calls a tracing app Big Brother.
It's a huge excuse to give the government more information. And as we're seeing with who infiltrates our government, they will violate our rights and violate anyone's rights for political gain.
The notion that Americans will cooperate voluntarily with a contact tracing app seems to be dead on arrival. A recent poll showed less than a third of Americans would participate in tracing if it's run by the federal government. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thank you, Dale. Google and Apple have already released technology to help with the virus contact tracing. The company says 22 countries and several U.S. states are already planning to use the software. Texas, New York, and California's governors are all saying professional sports can begin in the next few weeks without fans. And while the move will give sports leagues a boost, some worry it is a little too early for teams to get back in the game. CBN sports reporter Sean Brown joins me now to talk more about this. Hey, Sean, thanks for being with us. So can you break down what sports will be returning and when?
Hey, good morning, George. Well, right now it looks like we're talking about Major League Baseball, and I mean it's basically the spring sports, Major League Baseball and NBA basketball. Those are the two sports that we're looking at right now, but it's all about the precautions that they can put in place.
What precautions do you think teams will take to protect their players from the virus?
Well, Major League Baseball is looking at options such as, frequent testing throughout the season. If players travel, if they have to stay in hotels, just isolating them to their hotel rooms. And again, the testing is going to be crucial throughout the season. The NBA is looking at possibly restricting the workout facility to just 4 players. So 4 players come in, do their workouts, leave, another 4 players comes in. But that still doesn't account for the coaches, the trainers, and the support staff that, make sure the players have what they need to play and make sure they're ready. They're actually ready to play. And so it's all about the precautions in place. And that's going to take some time. It's going to take some planning. And so soon, but we'll have to see how that pans out. It's all about safety.
Yeah, on that very subject, with the threat of a potential, experts are talking about a potential second wave coming this fall. Do you think it's a little too early to get back into the game, so to speak?
If you're talking about May and June, I think so. I think so, especially if you're talking about a second wave. They're predicting the wave, if I'm not mistaken, is going to hit somewhere around the fall. So if they started having games right now, it might not be bad, but I foresee that by the time we get into the fall and that second wave begins to hit, it's a little too early. But again, with no vaccine, it's just hard to tell when this thing is going to hit. But they're confident that there will be a second wave, and we just have to make sure, the governors, the teams have to make sure that those precautions are put in place. I mean, if there are no fans in the stadiums, potentially it could be safe. Again, it comes back to the precautions that they put in place.
Yeah, I know people are just itching to get out. This is the summertime, as you can imagine. One last question to you, Sean. A group of high school swimmers in New Jersey have petitioned their governor to reopen swimming pools. They say their mental and physical health are being affected. Real quickly, talk about why it's important to open up sports for kids sooner rather than later, sir.
Well, George, it's a release for kids. We both have kids that are athletic. My son, Matthew, plays soccer, and his junior season was, pretty much deleted because of COVID-19. And so he's going to be a senior next year, and he's not sure if he's going to be able to play. He's looking at trying to get scholarships. And so sports is a release for them. But then again, they're looking at, potential college scholarships and things like that. So in that regard, it's important. But again, it comes back to safety. What good is being able to play if you're not healthy enough to play?
Hey, so Sean, I'm sorry. That's good. I'm sorry. We'll have to leave it there. We're out of time. My man, Sean Brown, thank you so much for coming on the show. Now to the catastrophic flooding in Michigan. Thousands have been forced to evacuate amid the pandemic after a 500-year flood destroyed 2 dams. The damage so bad, the state's governor is asking President Trump to speed up aid. CBN's Jenna Browder is following the story from our nation's capital. Take a look.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer says this is an event unlike anything the state of Michigan has seen before. The devastating flooding peaking, leaving thousands with nowhere to go.
Oh my God, that's somebody's house.
This after 2 dams failed, releasing enough water to swallow entire neighborhoods.
Most of the buildings down here are damaged beyond repair or gone.
Water reaching roofs of homes. Cars and roads swept under the deluge. An amazing 374,000 gallons per second flowing out of the river. This boat smashing into the bridge before getting sucked down. Other bridges left altogether destroyed.
It's going to have a major impact on this community and on our state for the time to come.
Sent them everything they've needed and will continue.
President Trump was already scheduled to visit the state today.
It's a big, big problem. And so we've sent the FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers out, and they're very good at dams.
He'll take a pre-planned tour of a Ford plant now making ventilators.
We are now in day 3 of a 500-year flooding event.
Local officials now say they knew this could happen.
This was a known problem for a while.
In fact, federal regulators revoked Edenville's dam hydropower license because of overflow concerns found in 1999. And the Army Corps of Engineers reported the Sanford Dam had a high hazard potential during an inspection in 2018. The federal government is now ordering an investigation. Meanwhile, it's going to take time before people get to return home. This as more communities downstream brace for flooding. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Some pretty dramatic images there. A suspect is in custody for the shooting of 3 people in a prominent entertainment complex near Phoenix, Arizona. Witnesses say a man with a semi-automatic rifle opened fire in an area filled with stores, restaurants, and bars. Customers and workers sheltered in place until police arrived and took the alleged assailant into custody. 3 people were killed, 1 critically in the attack. The area is next to a State Farm Stadium, home of the Arizona Cardinals and the site of the NCAA's annual Fiesta Bowl. We move overseas, where a powerful cyclone has left at least 14 people dead in India and 8 dead in Bangladesh. Cyclone Amphan made landfall Wednesday afternoon with sustained winds of 105 miles per hour. Hundreds of villages were underwater because of the tidal surge. At least 1 million people are without electricity in Bangladesh. Most of the deaths were due to the collapse of walls, drowning, and falling trees. Coming up, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany talks about the president's reason for taking the drug hydroxychloroquine. Stay with us. That story in a moment.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN NewsWatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Yes, right on time.
From Superbook.
Pepper's Pizza Palace is donating pizza for everyone today. Wait. I have big plans today.
Trust in God, even when times are tough. He has a plan for your life.
Hey, we're gonna be late for the grand opening.
My parents want me to help with this outreach thing, feeding the community. What am I supposed to do here? Superbook!
Join the Superbook Club and get Superbook The Birth of Moses, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25.
Pharaoh ordered all newborn Hebrew boys thrown into the Nile River, and I have a 3-month-old brother.
The Birth of Moses. Yours for a gift of only $25.
What will you do the next time the soldiers come? I do not know, but I trust God has a plan for all of us.
Superbook Club members, free streaming for seasons 1, 2, and 3 is now available.
And welcome, you are watching the CBN News Channel. We move to our nation's capital, where Kayleigh McEnany talks about the president's reason for taking the drug hydroxychloroquine and why the media is holding back on new revelations about the Obama administration's role in the Russian probe. She talked with CBN's David Brody at the White House.
Kayleigh McEnany has plenty of sweetness and smiles, but don't be fooled. Since stepping into the role of press secretary, she arms herself for battle, prepared to defend the president. Lately, the commander-in-chief facing criticism for taking the controversial drug hydroxychloroquine to prevent COVID-19.
How comfortable is the president with doing this, and did specifically the doctor prescribe it for him? Just understanding.
Yes, the doctor did prescribe it for him, and he took it after having several discussions with Dr. Connolly about its efficacy, and he believed that Dr. Connolly, that the benefits outweighed the risk for the president.
The criticism would be that the FDA and the government, if you will, the federal government, only recommends that it be taken in a hospital setting.
So I talked to Dr. Hahn about that this morning from the FDA, and Dr. Hahn said first, this is a drug that has a long safety profile. It should always be prescribed from a doctor to a patient, but has been shown to be safe. And I explicitly asked him, what about outside of hospitals? And he said, yes, it's okay if a doctor prescribes it to you in your ordinary point of care. That is an acceptable way to go about this.
McEnany says the media stokes fear without providing necessary details and specifics. She'd actually like to know why the media isn't asking more questions about what President Trump likes to call Obamagate.
It is a criminal offense to leak the identity of an individual like Michael Flynn, a private citizen, to the press after being unmasked. So we know that a crime was committed. Who did it is the question. But there are a lot
within the Obama administration.
Within the Obama administration, yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
But there are a number of other questions that need to be asked. There's more questions than there are answers in this, and the lack of journalistic curiosity is really something intriguing.
Do you think the media is carrying the Obama administration's or the former Obama administration's water here to a degree?
When they don't ask the questions, absolutely. Yes.
The media has already taken aim at McEnany, saying, in their view at least, she lies from the podium despite her pledge not to.
We've been called a lot of names out there. I mean, they're already saying, I will not lie, and they're calling you a liar already. They're calling you other names, racist and birther and all that type of stuff. What's your response to the critics that say all this stuff to you, about you?
That I know the person I am, and I know what I stand for, and I stand as a Christian woman, someone who believes in equality and truth and loyalty and honesty, and it's the values I've lived by my whole life. It's the values I'll continue to live by, and people will malign you. It comes with the job, but I know who I'm ultimately working for, and it's the big guy upstairs.
And sticking with those terms, McEnany sees God's hand in Trump's election.
How do you see God kind of in all of that? This idea of providence, and Donald Trump put there by God for such a time as this?
Yeah, I think, look, prayer made a difference in this election, and that's not to say, I think God not to say that he puts a certain political party in a certain place
right.
at a time, but I do believe certain people are meant to be in positions at a certain moment, and I do believe that President Trump is the person meant for this moment, and I think prayer made a lot of difference. This country needed someone to fight for life, to fight for religious liberty, and I believe that President Trump was that person, and he's done that. There's just so much that he's done to fight for the Christian community, so I certainly believe that he's here at this moment for a time, as we all are.
The press secretary is definitely not shy about her faith, and during our interview, she became emotional when talking about the passing of Ravi Zacharias.
Yeah, it's a huge loss. My dad said to me that Billy Graham was the great evangelist, and I think Ravi Zacharias is the great apologist.
Yeah, I know this is tough. I know. Yeah.
We don't have to cry because we're Christians, so we know it's about this.
Yeah, I mean, we're human the last time I checked. But the tears come from what?
To have someone who, from an academic place, as an apologist, could equip you with those arguments where you didn't have to check your brain at the door when you became a Christian, where there is intellectual foundation for everything we believe. But his life continues, and in the next life, he is someone I'll meet in heaven, and rest assured his legacy will always be here, and he will continue to change lives.
This press secretary is hoping to make a difference here on Earth, too. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, one expert breaks down how the WHO and China are responsible for this global health pandemic.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep.
how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. President Trump says the World Health Organization has 30 days to make, quote, major substantive improvements. Try saying that in English. If it wants to avoid the United States making the organization's funding freeze permanent. The president says that his administration has completed an investigation that shows the UN health body is responsible for making multiple failures in the early stages of the coronavirus outbreak. Appearing on this week's episode of The Global Lane, Hudson Institute senior fellow Robert Spalding explains how the actions of both the WHO and China actually created a global pandemic.
What the WHO talked about in mid-January was what they call potentially minor human-to-human transmission. Of course, we know that the Chinese Communist Party knew that there was human-to-human transmission, and in fact, the WHO was aware of this, but nevertheless continued to tell the world that there was no danger from the coronavirus spreading. And this is at the same time that the Chinese Communist Party was encouraging travel outside of Wuhan to international destinations, but not domestic destinations. So essentially, the Chinese Communist Party caused the pandemic, and because the World Health Organization didn't do their job, actually they were acting at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party. They actually aided and abetted the spread of the disease.
Well, how is it that China has so much influence on the WHO when the United States contributes nearly $900 million in recent years it has to China, and China about 10 times less that, only about 83 million. So why so much influence from China?
Well, because the Chinese Communist Party actually does something called elite capture, and it's really about finding those individuals that have an ability to make decisions that benefit them and encouraging them, creating relationships with them, many times, oftentimes financial, that allows them to gain some kind of profit or benefit, and the Chinese Communist Party get their allegiance with regard to the decisions they make. Now, we don't have direct evidence of this with regard to Tedros, but we do know he comes from Somalia. Of course, Somalia has gotten billions of dollars from the Chinese Communist Party. So inevitably, the World Health Organization, although it gets 10 times the amount from the United States, the leaders of the World Health Organization are certainly suspect.
How should the world respond, General?
Well, what we were doing prior to coronavirus was slowly decoupling the two economies. The Chinese Communist Party doesn't believe in free trade. They don't believe in civil liberties. And so we were trying to protect the American businessmen from the uncompetitive behavior of the Chinese Communist Party and their companies. That being said, the coronavirus really demonstrates how dangerous that's been, in terms of PPE, masks, active ingredients for pharmaceuticals, antibiotics. So what's going to happen is we need to accelerate that decoupling and really begin to work together as democracies to reflow our trading relationships, reflow our financial relationships, and as we do, we'll be able to protect the societies and the companies from the predations of the Chinese Communist Party.
And finally, I've got to ask you about China's actions around the globe, as many countries are still trying to save lives during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our Asia correspondent, Lucille Toulousan, recently reported about the Chinese Navy threatening Vietnam and Indonesia in the South China Sea. That comes at a time when the Chinese Communist Party is losing support around the world because of COVID-19. Its military is acting aggressively, even with close flyovers of U.S. ships in the region. I'm assuming you think that's not really a way to win friends and influence people, is it? How should we respond?
Well, the Chinese Communist Party built these 4 illegal islands in international waters. The International Tribunal in The Hague basically ruled against them. They've ignored it. Their goal is basically to steal the resources of the countries in the region from their exclusive economic zones. $5 trillion in trade flows through those waterways, and the United States Navy is there to protect the international waters. I think we're going to have to stand up collectively as democracies against this aggression. I don't think that's going to lead to conflict, but we have to stand our ground, and we can't let the Chinese just roll over and take international space away from the global commons.
Okay, I'm sure more to come. Brigadier General Robert Spalding, Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute. Always appreciate your insight, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As always, you can watch more of the Global Lane tonight at 9:30 Eastern right here on the CBN News Channel. We will be back with more of the CBN News Channel right after this. Stay with us.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Protect your sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
In the age of social distancing, we've told you about everything from virtual concerts, museum tours, and doctor's appointments through telemedicine. But what about online session with a therapy dog?
A lot of the times, patients need some sort of distraction, or they're feeling a lot of pain. So Lainey is a great way to distract them in person. And what we've noticed virtually, it's pretty much the same thing.
Golden Retriever Lainey is a trained therapy dog working with everyone from veterans suffering from PTSD to kids who need a little help practicing their reading skills. Her owner decided to help to give back by taking the dog's empathy and compassion training virtual. That's pretty awesome. Well, folks, that's it for this morning's edition of CBN News Watch. We'll see you guys later. Bye.